Hi everybody, this is JJ Long from JJArtworks, and welcome to episode 5 of our podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. So in this week's podcast, I basically want to talk to you guys about the first paint party I ever did for my business and how it was a tremendous learning experience. And the reason why I want to share this story this week, I'm starting to think that I kind of want to share stories based on the experiences that I experienced in the past week of work. And I kind of want things to be relatable in that way because I feel like this week I really need to share a story about the lesson of moving on despite obstacles that are presenting themselves to you, because this was a very overwhelming week for me in so many different ways. And I want to share a story from my past that reflects the ability to kind of move forward when obstacles present themselves. And my first paint party was such an amazing learning experience for me, so I want to share that. So my first paint party was back in February 2015, and my friends Crystal and Matt wanted to throw the paint party. My friend Matt, he plays in a band, and my old band used to play with his band. I think we played at least a few times together. And this was a paint party at his band's jam room, and it was all of his bandmates and their wives that got together. And I think there was a group of 8 of us or so that painted that night. And my first paint party ever. I'd never done this before. I didn't even know really how to teach. I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. I was a bit nervous, but I decided, you know what, this is something that I really want to try to do in life. I really have this grand vision for a paint party business and JJArtworks in general. So let's give it a whirl and see what happens. And at least, you know, if I fail, I'm with a bunch of friends, and that's totally fine. So I brought all my supplies to their jam room, and we set up, and, you know, like any good old fashioned metal band, we had a few drinks before the event, and I needed to loosen up a bit, to be honest. This was my first time doing this, so I was like, I need to kind of take the edge off a bit. So, you know, I probably had a few beers, maybe 1 or 2 shots, I don't know. And we were just feeling pretty good before we even started laying down the first coat of paint on the canvas. And that was probably the first learning experience I experienced that night. I was like, wow, maybe I should be sober going into teaching a paint party. I can't get inebriated at every event, and believe me, I'm so happy that this was my first paint party and it was amongst friends, because since that day I've been super professional, and even to this day I'm learning things from events as, you know, they come and go. And this was just an amazing experience. So I'm gonna list like a bunch of things that I learned that night. But anyways, so feeling really good going into the class. So I had like a quick spiel. I didn't really need to introduce myself because everyone pretty much knew who I was. We're all friends. But you know, so we get into the first color of the painting, and it was a sunset painting with a boat in it, and it was an orange sunset in the sky. So I was like, all right, everybody, so we're going to take our paints and, you know, start off with yellow and add a little bit of blue, and we're going to make some orange. So everyone's mixing up their paint on their palettes, and one of my friends is like, hey, I got green. And then another friend down the row was like, hey, I got green too. And one by one, everyone's like, I got green. And I look at my plate, I'm like, wow, I have green too. I'm like, this is not a good way to start off a paint party. And I have a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of New Hampshire with a focus in oil painting. And I was like, wow. I was like, I'm feeling really good. So we all kind of laughed it off and everything. And the night went on, and it was a ton of fun. And, you know, I made a few mistakes here and there. It was my first time teaching, so I was pretty paranoid, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, just from that first, like, mixing of the color on the canvas, I could have just froze and just stopped, and I could have just been like, you know what, maybe this paint party thing isn't for me. Maybe I'm not meant to be a teacher. And for me, I have those negative feelings and doubts that come over me a lot of the times. It's really hard for me to kind of process not judgments from people, but feedback that I don't want to hear at the moment, and it was a tough learning experience, but I'm like, okay, cool. So I learned that, I need to kind of plow through this. And just because, I made a bunch of mistakes this paint party, it doesn't mean that I'm never going to do this ever again. I just need to learn my lesson and kind of move on from that. And some of the things I learned from that night. So as I was teaching, and it was like a 2-hour class, I was kind of goofy and being myself, and I'm still like that at these paint parties. But I had one friend that she was kind of going off the beaten path with the painting, and this was my first paint party, I thought that all the paintings needed to look like my painting and needed to look like the sample painting. So when people started branching out and doing their own thing, I was like, oh man, maybe like I'm not a good teacher. Maybe, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And then what I realized was that's not what a paint party is all about. It's about the experience. It's about bonding with friends and family and just being creative and letting loose and having fun. And this one person, she created, like we were doing a sailboat, and she made like a huge sailboat. Like my sailboat was maybe like 2 inches tall in the painting, and she made a huge sailboat. And I made the mistake of being like, whoa, what's that? And it was just an honest reaction, and it was something that I did it. I was just joking around, but she did not take that as a joke at all. She was pretty upset. So that was another big learning lesson that I experienced that night was, where people are creating for the first time and they're not confident in their painting ability and expressing themselves sometimes. You as the teacher, when you criticize someone like that or say something that's kind of out of line, that can really, really hurt someone's ego, really, really hurt their feelings. So that was a very, very humble experience for me. So whenever I teach a paint party now, I'm very, very humble. I kind of go into it, just letting people do their own thing, express themselves. And I'm never judgmental. And luckily it was just a friend. So she was not super upset, but she was like, hey, next time you teach your paint party, you might want to, not be so outlandish with your words, I guess. So that was another learning experience. Also, I did not clean up right after the event. Like after we painted, we had a good time, we painted and everything. Then we went, back to the bar and started drinking. They had a bar in their gym room. It was such an awesome gym room, by the way. Good job, Matt. So like we chilled out, we drank a bit more and just had a good time. And then it was like 1 a.m. and I'm like, shoot, I gotta load all my supplies back into my van. I'm like, I do not feel like doing this at all. And not only that, all my paintbrushes were out, and I didn't have everyone put the paintbrushes back in the water cup. So like all the paintbrushes got hard. I had to throw away a lot of bad brushes, and I didn't take as many photos that night, and it was a huge learning experience. I had a blast. It was great that my first paint party was with friends, but I learned so much that night. And what happened was the next day I was so overwhelmed with the different tweaks that I had to make in my life and in this career path that, a lot of the times I kind of get depressed when I get overwhelmed and I kind of shut down. And I kind of experienced that a little bit this week. So that was my story from the past, my first paint party with some friends. And now I want to pivot to this week for me because it was a very overwhelming week. So this week, I basically double booked paint parties on the same day. And usually that's not an issue because I have enough artists that can, do at least 2 events in a day. But basically what happened was, well, let me piggyback and tell you how we do events here at JJArtworks. So someone reaches out to us and they say, hey, we'd like to book a paint party for this date. And I say, okay, cool. So I give them all the information, and then I wait to hear back so they can confirm the date, and then we pencil it in, and then we take it from there. But sometimes when customers reach out to us, multiple customers want the same date. So I kind of say, yeah, we have this date available. No one's booked it yet. Please let us know as soon as possible. And when I hear back if the date's still available, then it's yours, and if you could possibly pay ahead of time an invoice, that'd be great. Or if you put down deposit, that would be awesome. So you can kind of lock in the date. But let us know as soon as possible. So what happened was I had two different companies reach out to me, and they wanted to book the same date. And I told them what I just told you guys, and I was like, this is how we do things. And one company chose the date, and I said, okay, cool, you're locked in. And then the second company, they came back, they're like, all right, we definitely want to do that date. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I reached out to all the artists on my team, and everyone was either teaching or already busy that day. They had personal things to do that day. So I was like, oh, shoot. Maybe I can teach it. And then I was like, shoot, I can't because I'm a bit busy. So when things like that happen, it doesn't happen all the time. Usually I have enough people on my team that can do that. But I was like, wow, okay, so I need more artists on my team. That was kind of a revelation for me. And that's something that I've kind of known for a while, but this really kind of pushed me over that tipping point. So I put out, and maybe some of you saw this on Facebook, but I actually put out a quick email blast or quick post on Facebook saying that, I'm looking for an artist for this date, and, it's in, where is it, Littleton, Massachusetts, and it's the state, blah, blah, blah. I would love it if you could, reach out to me if you're interested and all that stuff. And I had a handful of people reach out, and I'm so thankful. Thank you for all of you guys that actually responded to that. I really, really appreciate that. And at the same time, I actually posted an ad on Indeed.com looking for artists as well. So this past week, it was just a very overwhelming week because I've been fielding a lot of emails from different people and logistically trying to figure out, okay, can this person make the event on this day at this time? How far do they live from this event, and can they make it on time, and how am I going to coordinate getting them supplies and everything? And then, all the ads that I'm getting, all the applications I'm getting from Indeed.com, I'm kind of filtering through that and seeing if people have the right skill level and the right background and all that stuff. So it was just a very, very overwhelming week as far as that goes, on top of just the normal, everyday, running the business type tasks. And it was really Saturday. When Saturday came this week, I also had to teach on Friday, and that was in Hingham, Massachusetts. But that was a great event. We actually taught at a CrossFit gym. So I love teaching with the CrossFit communities, and it's so fun teaching, at a gym. It's pretty cool. It inspires me to do a bunch of burpees or something. So yeah, this week was just very, very overwhelming. And once Saturday came, I was just like, you know what, I just need to unwind, unplug, and do absolutely nothing. So I did that, and then Sunday I did the same thing. I just unplugged. But I basically want to share with you guys, like I said in episode 1, I want to be a very transparent person when it comes to these podcasts, because I think there is such a thing as being mentally overwhelmed when you're an entrepreneur, and I like to share that with everybody because it's hard. It's really hard doing what we do, and I think if you're an artist or creative entrepreneur that's listening, I think you feel my pain. I feel your pain, and I'm just so grateful that there's other people out there that sympathize with what I'm going through, and I just kind of want to be that voice for people as well. So that was basically my week. It was just very overwhelming, and then I just thought it'd be kind of cool sharing with you guys a story from my first paint party and how I somehow decided to keep pushing forward even after I felt overwhelmed. And a big way that I kind of get through overwhelm, and believe me, I didn't get through overwhelm until this morning, actually. I'm actually recording this on Monday. And I meditated a lot. I definitely meditated at least a couple times this morning. I did a good oracle card reading. I'll tell you guys about oracle card decks in another podcast, but it's basically like a tarot card deck, and I kind of do that for some spiritual guidance every morning. And I journaled a lot, and I just rested as much as humanly possible. I took a lot of naps over the weekend. I definitely, like I said, unplugged, and I think just having those good habits in place kind of help you get over that overwhelm. But it does happen, and I'm sure I'm going to have more podcasts where I tell you guys that I got really, really overwhelmed. But yeah, that's basically it for today. Okay, ooh, wow, we're actually already at 15 minutes. All right, let's wrap this up. So thank you for tuning in. If you could check out our Patreon page, that'd be great. That's how to support the podcast. You can do that by visiting www.patreon.com/JJArtworks. We'd appreciate it if you'd check that out. And then also if you could check out our official website at JJArtworks.com, that would be awesome too. And you can learn more about our brand and all the services that we offer. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you guys in episode 6 next week. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.